Hey there, creepy peeps, and welcome to another Weird Wednesday video. Today's video idea comes from Creepy Royalty. That's right, one of my creepy patron peeps, Scuba Steve, suggested that I do a tour of all of my like creepy horror, ghost, Halloween related books. So one of the perks of being Creepy Royalty is you get to pick a video that I do. That made it sound weird. Like, you get to pick a video that I'll do. Like, so it can be like a movie review, a book review, a horror topic you want me to discuss, or like a Weird Wednesday video like this. Like, this would fit into Weird Wednesday. Like, you wanted to see a tour of my creepy book collection. So that's what we're doing today. So thank you, Scuba Steve, for the suggestion, and thank you to my other creepy patron peeps for your support of this channel. If you want to find out the other perks of being a creepy patron peep, you can head on over to my Patreon page. The link is in the description, as well as one that will show up at the end of the video. Basically everything up the front here is like nonfiction, horror, or spooky kind of related books. So some of these you guys have probably seen before, whether in my videos or just in general, but I thought I would take you through them. Just in my little like display here, I have a few books. Obviously not all of them would fit here, so I just kind of put some of my favorites, or just cool ones I happen to find. Some of these I haven't read yet. 2 of them actually, to be exact, I haven't read yet. But they also were ones that fit, you know, in this little area. So first one is one I've used a lot, which is Men, Women, and Chainsaws by Carol J. Clover. An awesome read, has helped me in writing many a film studies paper. Next is one that I received as a gift actually last Christmas. My family actually happened to find this. I don't know where they found it. I didn't ask for it, I don't think. No, I don't think I asked for it. They just happened to find it. They knew I liked Korean horror cinema, and that's what this book is called. Korean horror cinema. It's edited by Allison Pierce and Daniel Martin. Very good. Has also helped me on a couple of papers. Next is a very good book. It's called Wes Craven, The Man and His Nightmares. It's by John Woolley. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Another one, I kind of just happened across this one and this one, but I'll get to that in a second, at Barnes & Noble, the one that I now work at. Just happened across it. Wasn't looking for it, and I saw it, and of course I had to grab it. This one is one I also found at Barnes & Noble, not on a whim. I went looking for it. It's called If Chins Could Kill, Confessions of a B-Movie Actor by Bruce Campbell. Obviously it's Bruce Campbell, so it's good. This one is another one that I just happened across. I was looking, the movie section at my Barnes & Noble is super small, and most of it is very specific, more just like behind the scenes photos from like popular movies like Aliens, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. They really don't have a lot of horror books, so you know, I just happened across this one in the cinema section. It's called A Brief Life, Alfred Hitchcock. It's by Peter Ackroyd. I haven't gotten around to reading this one yet, but I love Alfred Hitchcock, so thought I would pick it up. And then this last one in here is one I happened across at, I think the place is called Half Price Books. They had a booth or a table or whatever you want to call it at Texas Frightmare Weekend this past year in May, and it was the only one sitting there, so I thought I would grab it because I'm a huge Rob Zombie fan. It's called, it's by Joel McNur. It's called Sinister Urge, The Life and Times of Rob Zombie. This is the other one that I haven't gotten around to reading yet. Up here I just have the Mammoth Book of Slasher Movies, an A to C guide to more than 60 years of blood and guts. So I just got that. That was just one I happened across at Books A Million. I think I was just like killing time after work or something. And it really just, kind of like chronicles like every slasher movie ever. Not every slasher movie ever. One, you know, at one point it stops, but they're just like in alphabetical order, and it tells you like the writers, the director, the cast, and then it kind of just like summarizes it and stuff like that. Very cool. The rest of these down here are not Nonfiction, like starting from right here. These are just like all anthologies and stuff. Like my bookshelf is kind of organized. There's more anthologies and stuff in the back, but so next here I have How to Survive a Horror Movie by Seth Grahame-Smith, who wrote stuff like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, stuff like that. And it's kind of just like a play on all the slasher movie tropes. So like how to survive based on slasher movie tropes. I think I did a creepy book club on this. It's very cool. And this is just kind of like a fun, almost like coffee table book, I guess, just without the pictures. It's called Vukovic's Horror Miscellany. And it's, Jovana Vukovic. She's a horror movie director. I think that's what's her, Jovanka. I can't find it. Where the hell is her name? Yeah, Jovanka. Yeah. Jovanka Vukovic. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But it's like, yeah, it's just like a little, it has like some trivia. It has like top 10 lists. It's got a little bit of everything. So there's stuff like Hammer films. So it'll like talk a little bit about Hammer films. There's like a list in there like top horror movie video games and stuff like that. Yeah. There's more like anthologies back there. I won't really get into those. Oh, I forgot this is there. This hasn't gone into like my true crime section. I just picked this up at Barnes & Noble not too long ago. It's called Member of the Family by Diane Lake. It's supposed to be her story like from inside of the Manson family cult. Yeah. So it's just supposed to be her story. So I just thought it would be an interesting read. And I actually ended up buying it. It was like, this must have come out like, I don't know if it actually came out like right before he passed, but I think I bought it like a week before that news broke that he had passed and stuff. So that's a little bit weird timing on my part. One that you guys have probably seen a lot of is called Monsters in the Movies. It's by John Landis. It's kind of big, so I'm not going to take it out and flip through the pages. I won't be able to do that with one hand. But basically it kind of like goes through like the last 100 years in horror, and it's obviously the particular focus is on the monsters. So it's divided up by monsters. So you have like vampires, zombies, werewolves, things like that, witches. And it just like, well, it just has, it's full of like lots of pictures and the occasional like interview with a filmmaker and stuff like that. Very cool. It's also kind of a coffee table book, I guess you could put it out, and it's like just easy to kind of like flick through. Next I have the Book of the Dead, which is a complete history of zombie cinema. So it's very specific on zombies. It's kind of like the slasher. Let's see if I can. It's kind of like the slasher movie book, although this one, instead of like chronicling each movie, it kind of divides it up by like time period, I guess you could say. So that's very cool. Alright, next I got another one that I picked up at Texas Frightmare Weekend at the half price books table. It's called The Fear Makers, The Screen's Directorial Masters of Suspense and Terror. It's kind of a dated book. Very, very old. But this one is divided more by directors. So, you know, it goes through. So here we got like Terrence Fisher, William Castle, stuff like that. So it's more divided by like directors, Roger Corman, and their stamp on the horror movie industry. Let's see if I can get this back. Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know if I'm going to keep pulling out more of them because I feel like this is taking a very long time. So next one I have here is Horror, the Definitive Companion of the Most Terrifying Movies Ever Made. So this one is by Kim Newman and James Marriott. This one is a little bit different, and it goes through a lot of horror movies. Obviously, it's very thick, but these are like mini reviews of each one, pretty much. It's very, they definitely put their bias into it. It's not just like a description of each movie. They do like a little review. but still a good read. Next is another one that has helped me in many film studies paper. It's called The Dread of Difference, Gender and the Horror Film. It's the second edition. Very good. So this is like a compilation of essays from different authors, obviously, about certain horror movies and like the depiction of gender roles and stuff within those movies. Next, you'll probably recognize this title. It's called Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue, The Evolution of the American Horror Film, which is a very good documentary that is still on Netflix, I believe. If not, it's definitely on Shudder, I think. So very cool. It's Joseph Madry. So it's pretty much does what the documentary does as well. It goes through decades of horror and talks about like the themes and influences of it and stuff like that. This one was one that was a required textbook for my horror film class, actually, at National University. It's called Horror, the Film Reader. It's edited by Mark Jankovic. And it's another one of those like collection of essays about different horror films and things like that. Another one I got here, I think I got this one at not Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, I'm sorry. It's called Post 9/11 Horror in American Cinema by Kevin J. Wetmore. So this obviously is not like a history of horror cinema through each decade. It's obviously focused, you know, post 9/11, so everything kind of that came out around and after 2001. But very interesting. This one is one of my absolute favorite books. I've pulled it out and referenced it so many times. It's called Horror Films FAQ, All That's Left to Know About Slashers, Vampires, Zombies, Aliens, and More. It's by John Kenneth Muir, who also has a blog, which I will link in the description box. But I absolutely love this book. It's not necessarily by decade. Sorry, there's like some flags and highlighting and stuff in here. But it's more by like subgenre, so like when animals attack films, zombies, alien films, stuff like that. Love this book. This is one of like the top ones I would recommend if you were looking to get some horror books here. This one is actually one that was a required textbook for my horror film class, but I actually already owned it before I way before I even took the class, like years before I took the class, which is so nerdy for that to happen to me. But it's called The Horror Film and Introduction by Rick Warland. I think it kind of stops in like the 80s era kind of movies. So it's not super long or anything like that, but talks about the history of horror films. Next I got, this is kind of a new purchase. It's actually been helping me a lot in my thesis paper for a little bit. It's by Christopher Dell. It's called The Occult, Witchcraft and Magic in Illustrated History. So it just goes through exactly what it says, you know, like the history of like witchcraft and things like that throughout history. Ends like with modern like Wicca and things like that. Next is one I got also recently, kind of haven't gone around and reading it, but I've heard a lot of things about it that I just wanted to check out. It's called The Witches, Suspicion, Betrayal, and Hysteria in 1692 Salem by Stacy Schiff. Here's another one. This one is definitely super opinionated. It's called Witch, Unleashed, Untamed, Unapologetic, and this is more about like reclaiming the word witch in society and things like that. Not so much about witch movies, but also very good. More kind of like I wouldn't necessarily say feminist, but you know what I mean. These next two books are ones that they look like kind of like print on demand books. They're ones that like they're print to order. So they're not done by a big publisher or anything, but these two books were recommended to me by my advisor for my thesis. He's the head of the department at National University for Film Studies. This one is called Seers, Witches, and Psychics on Screen, an analysis of women visionary characters in recent television and film. So this has been very useful to me in my paper, obviously. And then the next one is Our Old Monsters, Witches, Werewolves, Vampires, from Medieval Theology to Horror Cinema. Whoa, very good also. I haven't like read them cover to cover, but I've read most of them now. Next is one I just put away. It was sitting on top of the thing. I'm still reading it. It's called Witches, Sluts, and Feminists. Did an Instagram post just a quickie one, like I was reading it when I was waiting for my car to get worked on. Again, not so much about witches in cinema, more about witches in history, but it's been actually kind of useful for my paper too. Next is one I definitely did a creepy book club on, so I won't talk a lot about it. It's called The Horror of It All by Adam Rockoff. If I can find the creepy book club, I will link it. This is the third one I got. Texas Frightmare Weekend Half Price Books booth. Alfred Hitchcock, The Legacy of Victorianism. So this just kind of, it just picks out a couple of his films and discusses them, you know, deeper. It's like essays on specific movies of his, not so much all of his films and stuff. Okay, so these next two films I got at Mojo Books and Records over by USF. This one is called Burton on Burton. So I mean, it's obviously has, like, it's edited by Mark Salisbury and it has a foreword by Johnny Depp, but it's obviously Burton on himself. And he kind of goes through and talks about like his experience making most of his movies, not all of them, but most of them, his most popular ones. This is another one I picked up at Mojo Books and Records. I can't imagine how this is still sitting on the shelf, like why nobody picked it up. So this one is called Make Love, the Bruce Campbell Way. Good Lord. So sorry. Okay, anyways, I'll just talk over her. Next is one I happened across at Barnes & Noble once on a shopping trip. It's called Masters of Cinema, and this one is specifically Tim Burton. So this is kind of like the Masters of Cinema is like a series. So this is just happened to be one on Tim Burton. Again, just goes through his movies. This one is full of more like pictures and stuff too. I'll show you really quick. It has a lot more pictures and stuff. Love. Okay, I lied. This is another one I got at Texas Frightmare Weekend. As I'm pulling them out, I'm remembering like, oh yeah, I remember I got that at the half price book stand. This is called The Art of Sleepy Hollow. I just thought that was a cool coffee table type book, full of more pictures and stuff than anything. All right, next is one I've definitely talked about before. This is The Addams Family in Evolution by Chaz Adams, obviously. So this is like pretty much all of the original Addams Family drawings, little like comic, whatever you want to call them, not really comic strips, but you know what I mean. The original comics, pretty much, that started it all. And then it also, throughout the book, like we'll have like a little section on each character and when they first appeared, and things like that. So love that book. This is kind of like the coffee table book section, if you haven't noticed, or ones that are just like kind of like easy to flick through. So this is one by Chris Grimley. It's Frankenstein. It's basically just kind of like an abridged you know, telling of the original Frankenstein story with Chris Grimley's art, which is very, very cool. I have a print of his on my wall as well. Since I'm talking about him, I'll also pull out The Legend of Sleepy Hollow again, with drawings by Chris Grimley. Amazing. Okay, next is one, I don't know if I showed this in a video, but this is Stephen King's Creepshow. Obviously, so it's like, hold on. So it's all like the shorts from the movie, like in comic book form, you know, like the little kid who waits for the Creepshow comic / magazine, whatever, to arrive in the movies. You can see him right there. Love that. It's just a cute little. All right, and then another kind of coffee table book I have here is The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is written and illustrated by Tim Burton, obviously. So it's, you know, literally just kind of like A Nightmare Before Christmas, but it's like done like a children's book, you know, so it's all like in rhyme and things like that. I love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, now we've reached the small little Halloween section we got here. So this is just one, Halloween Nation by Leslie Pratt. Ben, I don't know how you say her last name. Oh, look, and stray bookmark there. So this is kind of like a history of Halloween, obviously particularly in America, and like the traditions and different things like around the country that people do to celebrate Halloween. All right, this is the Halloween Encyclopedia by Lisa Morton. Love this. This is like, just like it is like an encyclopedia, so it's like all of, you can't see it, sorry. It's hard to do this with one hand. So it's, you know, it's alphabetical, and it's just, you know, gives you details on all like traditions around Halloween. Like this is Guy Fawkes Day / night, graveyards, ghost table, has people, things, traditions, you know. It's a cool book. Oh, that bookmark is getting in my way. Okay, there we go. Okay, so last little Halloween book I have here is Poems Bewitched and Haunted. It's an Everyman's Library Pocket Poet book. But it's cool. It's just like a tiny little book, and it has a whole bunch of poems that are about Halloween. Okay, so next I have a super cool book. It's called Death in the Afterlife. So it's like, it's in chronological order. You know, it talks about like cremation, resurrection, like burial practices, and like different beliefs and stuff about the afterlife. So it's like, you know, different cultural and religious beliefs about what happens after you die, and what traditions they do, you know, to bury their dead. Very, very interesting. Super morbid, very interesting. Next is one, this is one I just happened across in the science section of Barnes & Noble, not a section I go to very often. But I'm glad I did this one time because I happened across this. It's Spooky Science. So it kind of talks about, like it says here, debunking the pseudoscience of the afterlife. So it's more kind of about like paranormal investigations and things like that. And so stuff like, you know, hallucinations, psychokinesis. Here's another one, super cool read. Thought I'd pull it out and show you. It's called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory. I love this little like one-liner like review here. The very definition of morbidly funny. It really is. It's super cool way to, you know, talk about, you know, what goes on in a crematorium and things like that, and in kind of a funny way, as funny as you can be talking about death. So this is kind of an anthology a little bit. I just happened across this in the bargain section of Barnes & Noble. I just thought it looked really cool. I think I showed it in a haul. But it's Black Cats and Evil Eyes. It's a book of old-fashioned superstitions, which I thought was really cool. So it's exactly what it says it is. Like, it just takes you through certain superstitions and where they started and why. Tying a knot in a handkerchief. So some of these I've never heard of like that. I don't know that tradition. Or like knock on wood or touch wood, stuff like that. So it'll tell you like where it came from. You know. Placing shoes upon a table will bring bad luck. Didn't know that. Friday the 13th. Super cool. I just liked it because that stuff I Google all the time anyway. This one I definitely talked about. This is a graphic novel. I know I said that this was mostly nonfiction. This is like, these two are the exception right here. This is just a cool graphic novel. My favorite thing is monsters. Blech. 10 out of 10 do recommend. It is huge and massive, but the art is so cool. You can definitely find it at Barnes & Noble, I know, because I work there. Next is kind of like a little anthology of stories by Emily Carroll. It's called Through the Woods. I definitely did a creepy book. Did I do a creepy book club on it? It was definitely in a video. But it's just like a bunch of little short stories that are like illustrated and stuff. Very cool. And then right here, I won't bother pulling these all out and showing you, but this is just my little collection of Rue Morgue magazine library collection. Yeah. Now I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to actually like buy them individually. Horror Block is no more. Okay, so these two are kind of like magazines. This is stuff that like always comes out around Halloween time from like Life. So this is the world's most haunted places and the most notorious serial killers. I realized the other night that I definitely put this in the wrong spot because my bed is right here. And then, you know, that's like the head of my bed or whatever. And flipping, that's the view I see when I wake up in the morning or when I'm trying to go to bed. That's too funny. Okay. Finally, we made it to the end. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It could have been really quick, but I feel like that's not the point of doing an in-depth video, right? Right. Okay, so this, it's kind of more organized by like size, obviously, since they're stacked this way. But this is my real, with the exception of that, real crime, like true crime and like supernatural sort of collection. So like at the bottom here we have some books on serial killers, which I just find interesting. I'm always like torn between like glorifying serial killers too much because I don't necessarily believe that's right. But I mostly just think the psychology part of it is very interesting. My late uncle was a criminal psychologist and he actually was treating, I don't know if treating is the right word, the Green River killer before he passed. So I just find it interesting. So I just generally tend to get books on like general stuff, not on a specific person, which you'll see is not 100% true at the top here. Just like from National Geographic, I happened across it at Barnes & Noble once. It's a guide to the world's most supernatural places. So, not most supernatural, guide to supernatural places. Super cool. I'm not going to pull all these out, obviously, because that would just, with one hand, it's just impossible. So the next are two books, which kind of go along with this book up here. They're just about haunted places. I think across America. One of them might be Europe. But it just talks about some of like the most haunted places. I think this one includes like Europe and stuff, and this is America. So same with this one, historic haunted America. So it just kind of like takes it place by place. Very interesting. I love stuff like that. I like visiting places like that too. So these three books I picked up because I thought they would be interesting. These are all the haunted places in Florida, and it's divided by section. So this is the Gulf Coast and Pensacola, North Florida and St. Augustine, and South and Central Florida, which is actually a few. I wanted to go to a place. There's one on here that, according to this book, is like a 5-minute drive and maybe like a 10-minute walk through the woods to find it, but I don't want to get lost or anything back there. I don't think there's any trails that go back there. But it's supposed to be kind of near what is now the Fishhawk area, which is literally right next door pretty much to where I am. But yeah, it's been super interesting. Right, okay, so next, and the last ones we got, like I said, these are like really only the specific serial killer books I have. Helter Skelter obviously is a very famous one. And The Devil in the White City, which is about H.H. Holmes. Next I have these two, which are kind of are like, it's like not true crime, but like true supernatural stuff. I don't know what you call it. Obviously The Demonologist. Oh dear God, I just hit my light. Don't fall. Okay. So this is The Demonologist, which is all about Ed and Lorraine Warren's work. You would know them. They have now been popularized by the Conjuring films. And then of course we have Jay Anson, The Amityville Horror. Right, okay. I feel like I've talked a lot here now. I don't know how long this video is going to be. But that's it. That's my creepy book collection. Yeah, so let me know what you thought about it. I don't know, let me know if you have any of these books. I always need more books. No, I don't need more books. But I do need more books. So if you have any suggestions on kind of like similar material that you think is awesome and you think I should check out, please let me know in the comment section down below. You can find me at all the social media places not Eva. I'm not on all the social media, but most of it. You can find all that in the description box. You can also find me on my blog at nightmaremaven.com. Up there right now should be a DVD special feature review of Jack Frost. The good one, not the crappy, what is it? Is it a Tim Allen movie? I don't know. Not that crappy one. That should be up there right now. You can also find me as a contributing writer at morbidlybeautiful.com and on my Patreon page at patreon.com/nightmaremaven if you want to support the channel. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big old thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here and become a Creepy Peep today. I post videos Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay strange. Bye!